There's always a better way to do what you're doing right now. So be grateful. Now they're just like, oh my gosh, there's so much more to do, right? And I was like, no, programmatic is where my heart is. Amen. Welcome to another episode of the Programmatic Digest podcast. We are excited to have you here. On this week's episode, we have a special guest, Tomer Treves. He is the CEO and founder of Adnimation. Thank you for joining us today, Tomer. How are you doing?
Thank you, Helen. Thank you for having me, and thank you for pronouncing the name correctly. Adnimation. It comes
Adnimation.
from
I don't know
some
why
old background that we used to have.
I think it plays really well with the word, and it also plays really well with today's conversation, which is going to be more about like the publisher's point of view. How are things monetized on the back end from a publisher, from a site perspective? Obviously, you in our introduction, I told you that I was more on the buy side. Some of the audience is more on the buy side. But I think the conversation we're going to have is going to be so valuable for every single person listening. So before we get into this conversation, can you introduce yourself? Let us know who you are, how you got into programmatic in general, and why you founded, Adnimation.
Of course, thank you. I'll be happy to do that. I'm also excited to be speaking with you today because I think that most buyers on the programmatic area, they know how to buy, but they need to understand who they work with from the other side. There are so many computers along the way, so you lose the human touch, and then I think this perspective could be useful.
Totally.
Adnimation is a monetization company. Our customers are content websites that love doing content, but have trouble managing the ad sales process. The programmatic sales process is complicated. It requires a lot of technology, which changes all the time, and they are frustrated with those changes all the time, and they can't maximize the prices that they get. And so they hire Adnimation, and we bring in a technological platform and service that takes over all ad space in the website and sell it for them in a smarter way and for higher prices. You asked how we began with that. I used to be in ad tech for a long time, and I saw how most ad tech companies help advertisers buy ads for less, which is good. But I think what they really should do is buy ads effectively so they get a good return on what they buy, not just a focus on the price, but also on the return. And because I felt that publishers are an important part of that equation, they bring in the content to the world. Without them, there's nothing. I thought that somebody needs to take their corner and help them get better prices. This way, become stronger businesses and survive as active websites and keep on providing good quality content to everyone. So that's Adnimation and how I got into programmatic.
That is really cool. Did you always wanted to start in programmatic? Did you say that to us already? Talk about how
I wanted to make the world a little better if I could. And the way that I found is that, for example, if we take news sites or recipe sites, they need to be independent. If they're not independent enough financially, then their content is usually biased towards the people who pay them. And so to become independent, if they sell the ads programmatically, they don't have to speak directly with advertisers and develop a dependency on them because it's programmatic, it's indirect. And if we maximize the revenue for them, then they have enough to pay for more writers, more editors, and survive as businesses.
Content quality.
And so, so we empower the publisher to become an independent business, and then the quality of the content is preserved or even improved. And by such, we're doing the world just a little bit better. And that's why I joined this sphere.
No, I love it. I love it. So if you had to define what you do to a 5-year-old, what would be your definition of programmatic?
From our perspective,
from your perspective, how would you define
through selling programmatic ads, we help content websites to become stronger businesses because we make them more money. We sell the ads in a smarter way, more efficiently, and so the ad revenue that they yield throughout the month is higher than they used to before, and so they can pay more to the content creator, to the editor, to the photographer, and to the infrastructure.
Got it. So So let's talk about the publisher's point of view here, okay? Because in our intro, I I wanted to highlight how, from a buy side, how we see the sell side, how
Mhm.
we operate with the sell side, and there's a lot of, it's still very siloed. We still don't see clearly on the other side, depending on the DSP that we're utilizing. Sometimes there's a lack of transparency, like we'll get the SSP and then we'll get the site, but we won't get the seller. For the person listening, how about this? For the person listening that is currently managing an ad campaign on the buy side in a DSP, for instance, or servicing a client, an advertiser, can you tell us like what are some challenges you're currently facing, but also some benefit of working directly with somebody, like directly with a seller, or should we keep working with the SSPs? Like, how can we maximize and support what you're doing right now?
It's a good question. It's complicated, but
Yeah,
I'd be
I
happy
bet.
to dive into it because
Yeah, let's go.
why do we have programmatic? We have programmatic because it was the numbers grew. The buyers
Mhm,
needed to buy placements on a few sites and then hundreds and then thousands. And then it was impossible because they couldn't speak to thousands of sites for each campaign or each
mhm,
modification. So programmatic was born to help connect many advertisers to many publishers. And through this process, which is it's a genius process, but through this process, we lost the direct connection,
yeah.
and it's sometimes difficult to understand what are you buying, and because of this difficulty, you're not serving the advertiser or your client in the best possible way. And I think we touched a good example in our prior conversation, which I'd be happy to dive into. When you plan a media mix and you started
Mhm,
a campaign and you I don't know, you selected 100 URLs or 1,000 and you targeted them, and then you review it the day after and you start deleting sites off your list because they were not performing well. What you're doing is you're deleting sometimes an entire website without diving into details of what actually works and not works. And sometimes because of how you try to buy, you buy the lowest possible, like I'll give an example, I think,
yeah,
which
let's go.
illustrates
Yeah.
that. Let's say that you buy from a news site, but
Mhm,
you're only willing to pay $1. Let's say it's a low sum for that website,
mhm,
but they do have a unit way below the fold under everything else where
mhm.
you can buy it for a low price. And so you bought it. Clearly, because it's a very bad location, it had very low viewability, very low, probably zero engagement from viewers.
Mhm.
So from a buyer point of view, this was a bad website. But this is an amazing website with 1 million engaged users every day.
Mhm.
But because you placed it for a low price on a very bad unit, then you crossed it out from
You're
your
missing
media
out
mix
stuff.
and your plan, and you're missing it out. So what you really
Mhm,
need to do in that example is take a closer look at the website, see which locations are available,
mhm.
and select a better location that maybe you'll have to pay a little more, but it will be much more engaging on an in content unit where the focus of the users is, and you'll see an amazing return on that.
Mhm.
But because you didn't analyze per placement, then you lost a very big opportunity there. So the
Okay. So
example gives the rule of look at a website not as one location, but a website can include many different ad placements, which would for you would act very differently.
got it. Because when we optimize, and I say we because I've done it, like if I had to optimize, sites, and that's something that I really encourage any trader to do. And the reality is that because time is a commodity and we don't have a lot of it, we really rely on whatever auto optimization we have for the DSP. Like for instance, for the trade desk, it'll be COA. For the trade desk and Shuzo, it will be COA. So for the case where we don't have a lot of time, this is exactly what we do. We scan through those sites, we place our decision making based on that main KPI. But I always suggest to layer another 2 to 3. Those KPIs are assisting KPI that's going to help make a bigger picture. But nowhere do we look as intense or do we go in detail as layering in like something like a size or a creative format. There are some instances where we have to layer additional point because we're trying to tell the stories we're trying to see. But when you're scanning, hopefully it's not 1,000 sites, y'all. But when you're scanning a few sites, it takes a lot of time for us to make that decision. It really does. So I think we also have a challenge on our end. It's like, how do we become efficient in this process? Because SPO from the buy side, which is, optimizing a site list, is one of the very much important data providers, and site list are two things I think every single trader should look at on a almost once a week, at least once a week, because there's so much inventory out there. And I think that's a good segue into my next question, like what is your perspective between, we understand why we go from open exchange to private deals or direct deals with some of the sellers or some of the sites, some of the publishers, excuse me. But like, what's your perspective? What's like the publisher view point of view with,
Okay, it's an excellent point and angle, because first of all, I want to touch the issue of time, and then the programmatic
let's go.
direct.
I'm curious. Go ahead.
Time, that's how it is. If it was easy, then everybody would do it, and there wouldn't be a challenge. Of course, it takes time, and to make a smart buy and to give real value to your advertiser or client, it does take an effort sometimes, and it's those who do the extra effort that later on get get promoted and get more clients, because with some more attention put into the process, the ROI, the return on investment that you will get to the advertiser, would be substantially higher, because it's exactly those gems that other people would miss because they would delete them immediately without looking into the details, and then only the one who would put in the extra effort and time and find the better placement for a better price are the ones who bring the highest value to the advertiser. So I know it takes time and effort, but if it was so easy, then you wouldn't need a person there, because it is programmatic. In theory, it could be a machine that does the entire process, right? But I strongly believe that we still haven't invented the perfect machine that can do everything.
No.
Once someone invented that, the whole
That would be
industry would
scary.
change.
That would be very
Well,
scary.
yeah, many
Like, wait a
jobs
minute.
will be lost.
Yeah, exactly. I like the
But
way,
we're not there. We're not there yet.
no, we're not there, for sure, for sure. I like your perspective here, because it made me think about a microwavable meal, and then a meal that you cook fully on the stove and you've taken hours. There's a reason why we love our mama's food, is because they take their time cooking. They take for hours to cook, and you cannot eat until it's done for those 6 hours. But when you get to eat, it tastes amazing, and that's why it's mama's food, right? Because it brings some warmth to it, brings some love to it. So I definitely appreciate your perspective, because you're right. We need to take a little bit more time to go that extra step. And that's also why I always say, like, we don't need to target everybody on the internet, right? That's why we have to be, from the beginning, from a starting point, very strategic. And we can utilize the option of whitelisting or including a list of handful of sites. But again, we rely a lot on the open exchange, and some of the quality is not always there. But again, the quality that I'm referring to is because based on those optimization, KPI based optimization, we don't always see that quality,
Yeah. Now I owe you another answer to the second part of the question about when do we move from open auction to programmatic guarantee to programmatic direct. Again, this would take time, because then instead of buying from everybody together, you'll have to set up a deal with a specific publisher. But it does have advantages. I can think of two immediate advantages. One is when you really need volume, and second is when you really need quality. So sometimes there are campaigns that you just need millions of views fast. This happens in political campaigns, but also because it's time sensitive, but also with launches, when there's a new movie coming out or a new TV series and there's a launch date and they need to get their 100 million views in this week. So sometimes it's difficult to get the volumes that you need. And when you get in direct contact with a publisher through programmatic direct, you can get guaranteed of a certain volume. So The publisher will help you and guarantee a chunk of their traffic to you, and this is how you get your volumes. You close a few of those deals to get the few millions that you need. So because you can't get to the launch date and then get back to your client, say, hey, I'm sorry, I couldn't spend the budget. That would be horrible. You'll be losing, they will be losing, everybody misses the goal. So
Yeah.
one is to get volume. The second is to get quality. With each publisher, they know which units are the most engaged on their site. We touched an example before, Helen, you and I, as some advertisers really like the top banner, which is it has a good name, top, because it's on the top, but it's not really top in quality. Many times, because it's the first pixel on the website, when a user comes in through their mobile device, they actually scroll down before that banner is even loaded, or at least definitely before it gets attention. Their eyes are attracted to the center of the screen, they scroll down, and that top banner, which is normally sold for a high price, has very little engagement, and the return to the advertising budget is very low. And so it wouldn't be recommended. And each publisher, normally they should know which units work best on their site. And through a direct contact, you can get both this tip, the information, and also guarantee that you will get exposure in this unit. So you can ask in the guarantee deal, both for volume and specific locations. And while you will be paying more than what you would probably pay on open auction, the return that you get is so much better, because you get to the advertiser exactly what they needed: real views and engagement and the volume that they needed.
Hey y'all. So I am announcing the biggest, the brightest, the loudest party. No, I'm kidding. Biggest boot camp series ever. Nobody else is doing this out there. Okay. So what is it, you're asking? Let me tell you. We all know that optimization as a trader is one of the most important. I mean, you hear me say this all the time on the podcast and the content. You got to optimize, find time, but time is a commodity, and sometimes you just don't have enough time to. So I'm going to be doing 4 master classes in March, once a week for only an hour. So you only have an hour commitment for me. The very first class will be about best practicing which targeting levers to look for, how to look for those targeting levers, and when to make the decision of using this targeting levers to optimize your campaign. The second class will be about how to optimize inventory. Think about site lists, think about data providers, and I will have live example where I will walk you through a pivot table in an Excel sheet with report with real data to help you really continue, but also I'll provide some best guides and some workbooks so that you can follow through, and then you can take it with you and implement in your campaigns. The third class is going to be how to optimize for the other less popular metrics, such as like frequency, reach, recency, time of day. So we're also going to have access to a report where we'll take you through how to look at each of those metrics and also decide like, hey, at this frequency, we are meeting our goal X, or we don't need to be increasing frequency because there's no return on this change, etc. And the last class is going to be with a special partner that we're going to announce very, very soon, but they're going to help us understand the difference between AI versus manual optimization. And they're also going to have a live example. Okay. So it is a really cool masterclass that I'm going to be offering. It will not be free. It will have a small investment. But if you're interested in just finding out more information, go ahead and go to helenparker.com/optimization masterclass, and then join our waitlist. And then you'll get on our waitlist and you'll receive emails about details, how to sign up to each masterclass, how much it will take, if you're signing up in a group, how much discount you'll be eligible for, who's going to be our special partner, and also if you have the opportunity to maybe sponsor somebody. There's a lot of opportunity for, there'll be a lot of good stuff coming to you your way. So if you're interested, helenparker.com/optimization masterclass. Again, it's a 4-hour series, but each will be breakdown by hour once a week, and it will each have a specific topic of optimization, and you may have access to guides and workbooks during that time. So it's really cool. You have nothing to lose. Let's go ahead and level up that skill set. Let's go ahead and teach you how to be efficient when it comes to optimization, because God knows time is a commodity and we don't have a lot of it. Okay. So HéléneParker.com/optimization masterclass. Thank you. Yeah, now now we're talking more customized and specialized, right? Because a deal, whether private or guaranteed or not guaranteed, it's it's more niched. So there's less inventory, obviously, because again, sometimes it's not always about volume. Volume is important, but sometimes in some cases it's not always about volume, and you have to make sure to look into it. So if there is three things you wanted everybody to know about the industry, about the publisher side, about how to maximize our partnership, how to really make things a little bit better for both sides, what would be those three things? Like if anybody stopped the podcast right now, what would be those three things you want them to remember?
Okay, I have three for you.
Okay.
Uh, Publishers, Adnimation, and CTV. So publishers,
Mhm.
I'd love for buyers to remember that behind publishers, there are people.
Mm,
When you do programmatic buying for a long time, you see numbers. You know how to play with
that is
numbers, you know how
very
to
real.
adjust them. But behind the numbers, there's content, and behind the content, there are real people.
Wow.
And if you remember that, it can
Mhm.
influence some of your decisions and it will improve the entire industry. For example, when you push prices down and you push them too low, you may ruin the website in the way that they eventually go out of business or will not be able to invest enough in more content, and there'll be no more users, and then you won't have where to buy. So if, for example, as a buyer, you could use a magic button and cut all prices by half, you'd probably do that. But then the publishers would disappear, and then you'll be out of the job. So
Mhm.
that's an example about pricing, but it's not just about that. It's about complaints, and when you're not happy with results, and if you're not happy with the site and you delete it, you may throw someone out of business, or you may hurt them in a way that you didn't mean to. You filed a complaint that I wasn't happy with the traffic or something, and now you throw them into such a hailstorm. So just remember that there are people on the other side. That would be one. My second point would be about Adnimation in monetization companies like Adnimation.
Yeah.
Um, when there are publishers who understand that the technological challenge is too much and finances are also difficult,
Yeah.
they go to companies like Adnimation to help them sell the ad space. We work with many hundreds of websites,
Mhm.
and we give them an umbrella of technology and services that covers all their ad sales needs.
Mhm.
They're very happy with that. They don't have to chase after ad tech changes. They don't have to go and collect from many different advertisers all the payments. We do finances for them as well. But from a buyer's perspective, it can be an interesting opportunity, because when you get to a connection with Adnimation or other monetization companies, you can actually get all this added value that we talked about that you get from a publisher,
Mhm.
about the best locations, best volume, and everything else, but with regards to hundreds of websites. So it can be an interesting leverage for you as a buyer. If you get a good monetization company in a relationship with, then you have access to hundreds of sites programmatically, but with the added value of the publisher's perspective.
Got it.
So I would recommend buyers to look into such opportunities, and you find it programmatically, but then
Mhm. Mhm.
when you speak directly with a company, you actually speak with a company that represents 1,000 websites.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah. Yeah.
shortcut. So it was first, publishers are real, are
Mhm.
human. Two, Adnimation and monetization companies.
Mhm.
And three, I think the newest and hottest market at the moment, almost untouched by programmatic buyers, is connected television, CTV. Viewers of traditional TV have shifted in millions to connected TVs and smart TVs, and they watch video content on CTV apps, on Roku or Amazon TV or Apple TV. I know I do. definitely my kids don't watch traditional broadcast at all. They only watch through CTV apps.
We
And
haven't in years as well, since maybe
yeah, and
2015, 2016.
many CTV apps today have programmatic ads because they
Yeah.
need to monetize as well. If it's not a subscription-based programming like Netflix or Disney Plus, then it's an ad-based content app. They also have ad servers and auctions, and they sell programmatically video ads. So if you're buying for a campaign and you have video inventory, but not only video, it can also be banners,
Mm-hmm.
then you can buy a lot of engaged traffic on CTV apps. It's a little different than websites because you don't have a lot of clicks. But if it's for branding or for views or
Yeah.
for videos, then the engagement is amazing because normally it's a very big screen and the user actually watches it.
Yeah.
So you get the full attention, and this is what advertisers are looking for. So CTV is an opportunity for new buying, CTV monetization. From the publisher perspective, CTV monetization is a
Mhm.
huge thing. And Adnimation, we are leading a lot of activity in this field. And I think it's important for the buyers as well to get to know it.
Yeah. And you just received Google certification or preferred partners or something. Can you
Yes,
talk to us about that?
correct. Of course, to get the ad to the advertisers, we work with all the big exchanges,
Right.
and this includes, of course, Google and Amazon and all the rest.
Mhm.
And we've been working with Google for many years, and they have different levels of partnerships. And recently, Adnimation was awarded the highest level, the highest possible level of a
Nice.
global partner, which is called Google Certified Publishing Partner,
There you go.
GCPP. And we just had a very nice lunch to celebrate it here.
Oh, great. Well, congratulations. Yes, I hope you celebrated. It's a big win. Every win is big in my book. So congratulations. That's really dope.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm a big believer in stopping and saying thank you when good things happen because we have enough trouble coming out our way anytime in any way, but at least when
Yeah.
something good happened,
Yeah.
definitely. So
I
thank you.
agree. I agree. I think it's a good segue into the closing segment where I like to ask every guest a fun fact about yourself. So can you share something like a fun fact that maybe nobody else knows or not a lot of people on your team would know this about you?
Hmm.
It could be
Well,
personal, it could be professional, it could be either.
I can think of one personal, one professional.
Okay.
One which the listeners probably don't know
Mhm.
is while we speak here in American English and we talk about the U.S. market, I'm
Uh-huh.
actually located in Israel,
Love it.
very far from the US, but with very strong connections. And Israel has been kind of an ad tech capital in the last year's decade. I think
Yeah.
many ad tech companies grew out of Israel
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
influenced the world, which is interesting. And from here, we work mostly with the US market,
Mhm.
despite the 7 to 10 hours time zone difference. So that's
Yeah.
one thing.
Mhm.
Professionally, I can tell you that our first big clients were a website called Betches. It's a website from New
Okay.
York targeting young female audience,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and we worked for them early on together with them, and together we set up amazing campaigns to a then just starting dating app called Bumble,
Oh, wow.
which nobody knew of. And then we
Mhm.
connected both of them, and they had, Betches had the audience of young female, and
Mhm. Bumble
Bumble
is the
were looking for them, and they had the brand to grow, and together it was, and we were in the middle building the campaigns, and it was amazing to see both of them grow. Betches becoming a major entertainment brand, and Bumble becoming a major dating brand through very good matching between the advertiser needs and the publisher needs.
wow.
And I think it's something, it's nice to remember that sometimes, you're a listener, when they come to work in programmatic, they can influence the world just a little bit.
That's true. That's it. I mean, there's a lot of great success stories, but I love this. I love this one. Thank you for sharing. If so, all right. So if you, this is one of the final questions. If you had to tell yourself, your freshman self, what is one thing you wish you knew then that you now know, thanks to your experience, what would that one be? So what would you tell yourself that just started in the industry that you wish you knew then?
Hmm. interesting question. I do have some perspective already. Um, I think in one sentence, I would tell him, this too shall pass.
Mm,
Because there
good.
sometimes
That's
it
good.
looked like the world is ending.
Mm.
Just 3 years ago, pandemic erupted, everything was shut down, everything. Like, and in one day, all big advertisers closed their campaigns. Entertainment, airlines,
Yeah,
anything, everything and anything.
hospitality, tourism. Mm.
And we saw a drop in campaigns and advertising
Mhm.
of I don't know 80% in one day or 1 week maybe.
Mhm.
And on the other hand, people went online to read the news, so there was a lot of supply of ads
It's
and no
true.
demand.
Pockets. Hmm.
And our team had to stay at home. It looked like the end of the world.
It did. It did.
And if somebody then would have, tapped my shoulder and tell me, give it some time. This too shall pass.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's true to many things. When they happen, it looks like the end of the world, but take a deep breath and continue work hard for your partners, your team, your clients. And if you do that, you'll survive anything. And if we survive the pandemic, we can survive anything now.
That is true. That is true. I think it's a really great perspective. It's a great reminder that it's not the worst case or we've survived 100% of our worst days so far. So that's a
Mhm.
great reminder, and I really
Oh,
really
that's a
love
good one. Yeah.
and I'm a big fan of what you're doing. So if anybody needed to get in touch with you or with your team, how can they do that?
So adnimation is hard to pronounce, but it came from
It's me.
we started doing some animation with ads
Uh-huh.
10 years ago. So we took the word ads and advertising and animation.
Nice
We
play. It's a nice
put
film.
together adnimation. Once you hear that story, then it's easy to pronounce and say because it's
Animation.
animation and ads. Okay, adnimation. And then adnimation is very easy to find. Then we have an online chat and an email and a phone number and everything is available. And of course, I'm there, Tomer Treves also. So it's easy to get in touch, and we love hearing from buyers as well. So it's an easy pitch. So definitely there.
Thank you so much for stopping by. All of Tomer's and Adnimation's information will be in the show notes, either at the bottom of this video, or if you're listening to the podcast, just simply look at your show notes or go on our website. Tomer, thank you so much for coming on. You really give us a different perspective. You reminded us that even though we work with technology, there's still humans, whole humans on the other side of the road. And I think that's a welcome reminder, especially nowadays. So thank you so much. We wish you a best of luck, and we'll have Tomer back on the podcast or somebody on his team very, very soon.
Ellen, thank you very much for having me. I think you're doing a very important job with your podcast and your work. And I wish you also all the best. And I'm sure this is not the last time that we
Oh no,
speak. Thank you
definitely
so
not.
much.
Definitely not. Thank you, Tomer.
Okay. Bye-bye.